Right guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is a Balewind Vortex that Lucy bought last Christmas, and we've never used it. But now that she's got Sylvaneth, I wanted to make her very own Sylvaneth Vortex. So, we'll move this to one side, and how am I going to do this? Well, first of all, I've got a base. This is from the repulsor that I bought from the Primaris Interceptors. Luckily, you don't need the base of the repulsor. I'm going to put it on a different one, and it is almost identical in size to this. What I'm then going to do is I've got some twigs and branches. So I've measured this one, and this one is conveniently the same height. I've chopped it down to the same height as this one. Maybe it's just, half a centimetre or so bigger. That's okay. I'm sure most people will be fine with it. Especially by the time you get the top on, it's going to be about the same. So the plan is basically do something like this with a pool of water at the bottom, and then do the base up kind of like what the rest of the Sylvaneth are, and then have like a platform on the top. So yes, it is going to be wider than normal Balewind, as in cylindrical, but it's still going to be the same size and everything. So there's a couple of things that we need to do to get things started, and the first thing is of course hot glue gun on the branches and stick the branches down. Now I conveniently forgot to plug my hot glue gun in before I started this, so I need to let that heat up. But what I'm going to do to kind of make sure that it doesn't just snap, because a lot of my forest terrain, the trees and branches have kind of just snapped off. What I'm going to do is, once it's glued in place, I'm actually going to fasten it down with some DAS modelling clay. Okay, so now that's heated up a bit, we're going to put a few drops of hot glue, a few beads, just at one side here. And that's literally going to be for the main piece. So this bit that's never going to hold that by itself in a million years. It's purely just there to give it a good fastening to start with. We'll then probably put the other piece there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop up a few bits of logs and sticks to try and just pad that base out, kind of have it look like we've got some roots growing through and things like that. Some bigger logs here as well. And we'll probably glue this one to the top there. Nearly enough. I think we'll have one more piece coming straight out the middle there as well. So be very, very careful with the hot glue gun, of course. You don't want to burn your hands. And there we go. So what I'm going to do now is try and pad all that in with a little bit of DAS modelling clay. Now, my DAS is a little bit dry unfortunately, but you just want to give it a really, really good knead. Add a little bit of water to it, just to soften it up a little bit. And then what we're going to do is just basically pad that out a little bit just to give it some depth and a little bit of texture. The idea is I'm going to have this kind of like a sacred pond at the bottom. So I'm just going to use some small bits and pieces and just start and work it in. Just so it's got some raised edges. Now obviously we are going to roughen this up a little bit later. We'll add some sand and stuff on it so that it's got some more texture, like I said. But I think what I fancy doing as well is I fancy having a log kind of in the water coming out, because obviously in the centre of this is going to be the water. And I'm going to do the water much like I did the bases for the Sylvaneth as well. So with this, don't get me wrong, the twigs look awesome the way they are, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to end up having to paint these because I don't think I'm going to be able to blend them in and get that colour that you see on the branches there, but I'll certainly give it a go. So just a little bit in the centre there to fill that hole in as well. Might have to put a little rock or something in there, I think, just to fill that in. But yeah, just moving around, padding it all in. Just cleaning the base off as I go. And this bit's obviously going to be a bit thin around the back. Just a bit more, and then we'll do a tiny bit of work on the edges on the inside. There we go, just clean the edges off. And then just make sure that the inside kind of matches it. There you go. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll start and add all the texture and everything else to it as well. Okay, so there we go. The modelling clay has now fully dried. And what I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to cover it with PVA glue and a bit of sand just to give it a bit of texture. So you can use any PVA glue. I got mine from Wilkinson's. You can get it in Home Bargains, a pound shop, you know, pretty much anywhere that sells stationery stuff. So just paint plenty of glue on the almost riverbank kind of bit. And don't be afraid to, if you get a little bit on the bark as well, that's absolutely fine, or if you get some on the flat surface. It all helps add to it. And a lot of this is going to get covered in foliage a bit later anyway, so, you know, it doesn't matter if it's not 100% accurate, it's fine if it's a little bit rough. And then I use building sand, which you can get from a pound from like your local builder's merchant. And I've dried it out in this tub. So all I'm going to do is sprinkle the sand on where I've put the glue. And just give it a tap. Obviously, if you've got a bigger tub, you can probably get away with like literally just dipping it straight in. And then on the excess there, I just rub my thumb around where you may have gotten a bit of glue on the rim of the base. Just keeping the rim of the base nice and clean. And there we go, we'll let that dry and then we can move on to start painting it. Okay, so I have skipped a little bit further forward. I've basically used some acrylic paint. I just used Wilkinson's Own to get this covered up to give it a bit of a base for some airbrush paint to grip to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray all of that up with Vallejo Model Air Burnt Umber. This colour is fantastic. It does smell a bit though, so if the compressor kicks in I will stop it, but yeah, just give it a nice couple of coats just around the brown area. It's okay if it goes on here because we're going to be spraying this purple in a bit anyway. Okay, so again I have skipped a very small step ahead. I've basically just blasted some white in there with the airbrush because normal black is very hard to cover. With hexed lichen we're going to use by Vallejo Game Air. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this for the pond effects, or rather I will use it when it's not blocked. So what we're going to do is I kind of do the Sylvaneth ponds backwards. So instead of the lightest bits being on the outside, I do the lightest bits at the highest point, if that makes sense. So I do them where the darkest bit is actually the closest to the shore. And this is how I've done all the bases. I'll probably try and do the basing tutorial separate, but you may not need it because you can probably follow this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray the hex lichen in here. It's okay if a little bit of it goes on the brown and the trees, it just gives it that little bit of glow. Okay, so all we've gone for there is I've tried to get the bits that are closest to the bank as dark as possible in doing that. Now, we only need a minute or two to let this dry. So I'm going to clean the airbrush out and talk a little bit about what we're going to do whilst we're waiting for that. So, the idea with this is to try and build up a number of layers, getting lighter and lighter and lighter with the colours as you go through, so that it does give the effect of water. And of course we are going to build it up later with water effects after we put all the foliage and all of that doodad on there as well, which we'll obviously talk you through as we go. So the next colour we're going to use is Game Air Alien Purple, and all we're going to do with this is we're going to basically pick out the centre sections of the pool. And just do like a circular motion, making sure that the outside bits stay the darkest, and build up a nice solid layer in the middle there. So you can see it's still quite dark on the outside, but it's nice and bright there in the middle as well. And then all we're going to do on top of that is add a little bit of white into my airbrush pot, just to thin it down a bit further. So I've only used a tiny bit of purple to do that, so obviously the amount of white that I need won't be very much at all, but it's just to lighten the purple up. I don't have a lighter spray of purple than this, so that's why I'm basically thinning it down with the white paint. There we go, just tested that a little bit. So then I'm just going to basically spray in the centre of this. And you can see there how it basically generates like a nice whitish, slightly purple glow there in the centre. And of course you've got the darker bits on the outside. And that is almost how I do the entire base. Right guys, so here we go. That has now dried. So what we're going to do is we're going to start and touch up all the foresty bits and starting to add some foliage and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm using GW Cadian Flesh Tone, and I'm going to dry brush all of the mud and things around the edge. Just a little bit, just to kind of bring a little bit of colour. To the surface, and just dry brushing all of the sand so that it's not all flat, that's all. Just nice and rough. Doesn't need to be perfect because, like I said, we're going to cover most of this in foliage and flowers and everything anyway. There we go. So we'll now move on to the next step and start and add some foliage. Okay, so here we go. This is the next step. We're going to add some foliage, and I've got a bunch of stuff here from Serious Player and a couple of little tufts from Army Painter. So basically we're going to lather this on, shall we say. This stuff you need to cut up, so you'll probably see us doing it off camera just in case I slip and like slice my finger off or something. But yeah, we'll stick some tufts of grass on, we'll stick some little meadow flowers on, and then a couple of these too, because obviously these are the colours that Lucy's got in her army. So let's stick some of these down first. Now these are really cool because the Army Painter ones you can just peel off and stick down, and I'm gonna stick this down with Gorilla Super Glue because Gorilla Super Glue is awesome. So I'm gonna put a piece down there, just next to the river, and then a piece there. Probably only want to do about 3 pieces at a time because otherwise your super glue is going to end up drying too quickly. And just pull it off and then sink it in place like that. And there's quite a big chunk there for that one. There we go. So we'll stick them 3 there for the minute. We'll probably come back with each one as I do it. if I need to add more and so forth, until we get a nice happy medium. So I'm going to use these grass tufts. These are quite big and bristly, so I quite like them as reeds. So I think we'll maybe stick one at the back. Maybe it's a big chunky one there. Stick one down here. Stick one just there as well. Probably a bit smaller there, so let's go for a big one at the back when I get this separated. Yeah, this one's a bit stuck together, so cut it in half with a knife. And of course, me with my giant stump fingers, can't even get it to sit in place properly. There we go. And then we'll try some of the slightly smaller ones. So we'll try that one there. So these are just kind of stuck onto the film of paper, and we can just peel them off and stick them down as necessary. So where'd I put the other piece of glue? It was there, wasn't it? So yeah, I'm going to stick a few more on because I quite like these. So put one there, stick one back here. Probably one here as well in there, maybe. So when these are fully set as well, you can actually just spread the bristles out a little bit with the flat end of your knife, which I'll probably look to do in a few minutes. There we go, that's the next step. So I'm going to cut some of the pink and the purple flowers up off camera, and we'll come back in a second. Okay, so here we go. We've now got some of the purple and the pink tufts ready to stick on as well. So again, using the super glue, I'm just going to do 2 or 3 at a time. So again, the pink flowers are quite stiff, but again, once they've set, I'm going to use the flat edge of the knife to kind of press the bristles out, because they are quite stuck together. So we'll spread them out once they've all stuck, because at the minute obviously they're looking quite square. So I'll add a couple around the back as well. One there, add one up there. And then we'll do some purple ones. We'll go 1. We'll go 2 right next to that one. 3 in that gap. I'll probably have to try and put one right down on the bottom next to the reeds, I think. Down there. So stick a pink one down there and a purple one. Stick some of the back there if I can as well. Probably need some purple around the back here as well, so I'll stick one in that gap there, one there, and one in that gap there. about just spreading the colour out enough so that you've got enough coverage. So I've got 2 bits of pink left. Stick one in that gap down there. And put one there. And that's just from one of the 5 strips that you've seen. And I'm probably going to put some more of the army painter ones in, just again to try and flesh out a few extra bits of colour. I'm going to have to use the knife to flatten that one because I didn't quite get that one in properly. So these were purchased from Serious Player, which can be found on eBay. I think it cost us about £5 for the 3 chunks that you've seen at the beginning there. So we'll put another piece in here and a piece in there. So there's a little bit of the white left there from the army painter one. I think that's nearly enough because the next step is going to be using some of this Woodland Scenics flock, which I'll show you here. So it's going to be PVA glue time with the Woodland Scenics flock. Now you can use super glue for this if you really want, but it's very messy and obviously you may get the frosting. I would absolutely recommend PVA glue for this. So I'm just using my PVA glue that I picked up from the pound shop. It's absolutely ideal for basing products. You can use it with your sand, obviously your flock, absolutely anything. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to add some of the flock between the gaps in all of the foliage and everything that you see here. So I'm just getting a little bit of PVA glue on my brush, and then we'll just put some around the edges there. And then what I'm going to do is just hold it over here, I'm probably a little bit zoomed in to show you here, but I'll try, and then just sprinkle it on like that. And give it a tap. And there we go. So I'm going to do a bit more of this, just keep adding bits and pieces on as we go in different areas. So we'll do a bit here, and a bit there, and then a little bit here. Now with the flock I don't mind getting some like up the tree bark because it just kind of adds to the effect, but again we'll show you when we get there. So again, don't be frightened to put flock on the top, so you can just tap it off like that. And you can see it just starts to really fill it out a bit more. So we'll put a bit under there. And there you go, you can see it's really starting to fill it out quite a lot. So I'm going to add some more of this off camera and we'll come back shortly. Okay guys, so there we go, you can see I've added all the flock on as we've gone round. I've even had some on the backs of the tree here and up the bark here, and obviously bits and pieces here. So one of the final steps for the foliage and stuff is Army Printer Field Grass. So we're going to get that stuck on, and now I find that the best way to do it is actually with super glue, believe it or not. So trusty Gorilla Glue is coming back out again, and this time we're going to stick a few lumps of static grass on. So nice lump of super glue there, and then what you do is you take a nice chunk of this in your fingers like that and just dab it on lightly and tap it off like that. And I've just totally covered the camera there. So just tap it off and you can see there's a nice chunk of that. on. So we're just going to do it in different bits and pieces of areas as we go around. So, and again, get a nice little chunk in our hand and just dab it on so that the glue kind of absorbs it. Like that. And it just fills it out even more than it already was. So I'm going to do some more of this, and then I'll show you what it looks like after. So here we go, guys. We're not far off being done. As you can see, I've added static grass all around the edges and basically just filled it all out, so it looks a little bit nicer. You can see I've also put some flock down on the bottom edges and some grass right on the edge as well. That's fine because we're going to mix it in a little bit with the water effect. And what I'm using here is Vallejo water effect, water texture acrylic. I believe you can mix this with paint, but I'm not going to. It is going to take quite a few layers on this. Now hopefully I've got this closed in because of the way that I did the modelling clay, so I might be able to pour this quite deep. But what I'm tempted to do is fill it half up and then put a very few small sprinkles of flock in and then fill the rest of it up. So here we go, wish me luck. Now normally with this you can spread it out quite evenly on a base, and I've used a paintbrush on all of Lucy's bases. But with this, you can see it is pooling quite a lot. It doesn't necessarily spread and run too much. It does run enough that you can normally get it to spread on bases, but you don't want to pour it too much in one area, just in case. And then pour some that way a little. And what I'm going to do is, it's really hard to see that on camera actually, but that is actually quite deep. And actually I've just noticed the grass is soaking that up quite a lot. So hopefully it doesn't dry it too firm. Maybe should have gone for a couple of thinner coats, but we'll see how this one turns out and come back when it's dry. Okay, so here we go. We're not far off being done now. What I'm going to do is add some of this. I forget what it's called, but it is from Serious Play with the flowers and everything, and it's basically like it looks like blended up kind of sponge, and it's supposed to be cherry blossom. So what I'm going to do is just add a few bits and pieces of that on, along with some decorative stones which I picked up from B&M. So the decorative stones, you can probably just break up some bits of slate as well, and again I'm going to add this on with Gorilla Glue because everybody loves a bit of Gorilla Glue. So just get a couple of rocks stuck on here and there. Get one down in the bottom there. Adding a few bits of rocks here and there. And then we'll go straight onto the cherry blossom. So again, bits of super glue, put a few bits there, and then I'm just gonna dab it on. Now this does come off very, very easily, so what I'll do is I'll put more than what I need on, press it down into the super glue and then let go of it. And then what you'll find is in 10-15 minutes or so, when it's all dry, you can just kind of blow and tap it off. And because the glue soaks through the sponge, it will hold a lot of it in place. There you go. see it's actually soaking through and sticking to my fingers instantly. And I'll put a bit more around here as well. Use that lump there. And there we go, so we'll just clean that up. And we'll let that dry and we're almost done. And lastly, we're going to make a platform to actually stand the branch witch on top of. So all I've done is I've cut loads of little pieces of logs up, and I'm just going to run a line of super glue down the side. Just like that, and then just stick them together. Now you have to be careful with this one because although I'm sticking it together, it might end up getting stuck to your cutting board. And kind of got to play around with this a little bit. I maybe should have seen which bits would have fit together first before I jumped ahead with them. And then I'm going to use some thinner pieces just to extend it out a little bit. So we'll use this nice long piece here. And then just build it up as you go along. You only need to get a 32mm base on there, so it doesn't need to be massive. Probably put one more on just over there. Glue on this bit instead. Oh. And just touch it up with a bit of glue to hold it in place, and then I'm going to let that dry. Okay, so now we're basically going to fix the platform into here. So there's a nice little gap where it'll fill quite nicely into there. So I'm going to put a bit of glue on both sides. Okay, so that's glued on, but it's a little bit unsteady, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to glue this piece in there against that, just so that I can try and give it a bit more support. So a blob of glue in there, and a little bit in there just to hold it in place. And there we go, it should set quite nicely. And we've got one more thing that we're going to do before we call it done. Okay, so there we go, that's dry and we're almost done, and now we just need to add some little bits and pieces to these, you know, the ends of the backs and stuff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add some Gorilla Glue, and then I'm going to add plenty of the moss that we've, or cherry blossom that we've got. So plenty of glue. There we go. Now unfortunately I've used most of the big chunks, so this is quite loose, but we'll try and get it on as best we can as well. It just helps make it look that little bit more tree-like. When it doesn't stick to my hands. So again, we're going to go on the top. There we go, we'll just let the glue dry and then we'll shake off the last few bits. Okay, so there we go, all finished up. You can see I put plenty of blossoms on. I've stuck a branch wreath on the top. And although it is slightly bigger with the overhang and it's wider in the middle and everything, the base is the same size as the Vortex, and of course the height of this is also exactly the same height as a Vortex as well. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you like Balewind Vortex, and you can expect to see it in a battle report very soon. So thanks very much for watching. Please check out the rest of the channel, and we'll see you again next time.